All right, so welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. With just days ahead of the opening ceremony of the 2024 Paris Olympic Games, Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, JAAAs, well, their incompetence have been affecting Jamaica's Olympic team. Sprinter Kemba Nelson and quarter miler Anthony Cox, who were added to the Jamaica Olympic team as reserves, were asked by the JAAAs to fund their trip to Paris, claiming they'll later be reimbursed. Nelson, who finished fifth at the Jamaica National Championships and was listed in the women's 4x100-meter relay pool, has since opted out of the Games. On July 4, World Athletics informed its members that the International Olympic Committee, IOC, decided the fifth athlete in relay teams won't be fully accredited as part of their aim to control numbers within the athletes' village and on transportation. Also, hammer thrower Nayoka Clunis faces the daunting reality of missing out on her Olympic debut, despite finishing among the top 32 athletes in her event due to an administrative oversight by the JAAAs, where her name was not submitted to World Athletics, causing her slot to be reassigned. Well, Clunis took her case to the Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS, ad hoc division, with the hopes of having her place reinstated, which was rejected because it was filed outside of the jurisdiction, according to CAS. Well, Leighton Levy, he joins us on Zoom to discuss this and so much more. Leighton, how are you doing? It's strange that you're not beside me in studio.
Lots of work doing, Maria. Lots of work. The Olympics are coming up, and of course, the website has a lot of things on this platter. And of course, our new podcast, Out the Blocks, which has a second episode tomorrow. So lots of work. It was difficult to get down there today at all.
Yeah, I understand, but I know, you'll join us as soon as you can. So let's get down to business now, Leighton, because Kemba Nelson, we're talking about this situation. It has not gone down well when it comes to track and field fans. And even yesterday, when we showed some reactions on the show, Leighton, we had people from the rest of the Caribbean weighing in on this situation. What do you have to say about how this entire situation unfolded?
All right, let's deal with the Kemba Nelson situation first, because that's easier. The fact is that there is the alternate participant rule under the Olympics, under the Olympic Charter, as it is by the IOC now, does not allow for alternate participants to be in the Olympic Village. And of course, anybody who finishes outside the top three at the Jamaica National Championships is selected at the discretion of the JAAAs, meaning that you don't have to pick the fourth person or the fifth person. You pick who you think is probably the best person suitable for the occasion. Kemba Nelson finished fifth at the National Championships and was initially given the idea that she was going to be on the team, but what her designation was the alternate participant, not as a member of the team. So she wasn't going to be able to be in the village regardless whether the JAAAs or the IOC wanted her there or not. Because of the rules that apply right now, she was never going to be available to be in the village. So she would have to find her own accommodation in Paris, and if she's called upon, then be ready to act. The fact is that, based on my understanding of it, the JAAAs and the JOA's budgets would be breaking the budget to have her, to pay for her being in Paris. There are other athletes who I'm told who are taking on the opportunity to fund themselves. I think Anthony Cox, I believe, is in Paris on his own dollar. So that's a situation that's not necessarily down to the JAAAs, but down to just the circumstances and the rules that apply. For Nayoka Clunis, it's an unfortunate situation, one that should never have happened. And I believe that while it might have been an oversight on the part of the JAAAs, it should never have happened in the first place. If an athlete qualifies for the Olympic Games, whether by being among the first three finishers, which is what she did, and of course, following, even though she didn't meet the Olympic standard, I think it's 74, I'm not quite sure what the standard is, but she threw a standard which was within the quota of top 32 athletes who would fill that quota in the rankings. She was ranked 25th, which means that she's well qualified to be participating in the Olympic Games. And for her name to be left off the list while the World Athletics was, JCS was registering the names of the athletes who would qualify, and to have her now sit out and watch the Olympics and not be able to be there when she's done everything in her power to be there is unfortunate. And it speaks again to just what I think is just some basic levels of incompetence in terms of, you have a team, you have the athletes come from the national championships, you have them try to meet the criteria, they meet the criteria, and then the athlete is not able to then represent the country at the Olympics because of a situation like this is embarrassing. When you look at it, it's not just the fact that she's not able to participate in the Olympic Games after qualifying, but it potentially robs her of an opportunity as well to earn a sponsorship, first of all. If you get to the Olympic Games, maybe she does something spectacular there and a sponsor sees her and thinks, hey, maybe we can support her. So she loses opportunities, not just because she's unable to participate in the Olympics, but also prevents her from the possibility of attracting sponsorship that will help her in the near future in her career. Track and field is a very unforgiving sport, and athletes don't make a lot of money, especially those on the fringes. So for her to be left out of a situation like this through no fault of her own is just embarrassing and it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and Leighton, you gave your overall view on the different situations that we intend to discuss today. Now, one of the things that really caught me by surprise would be Kemba Nelson's response when she found out that, she would not be going to Paris. And to the point, based on when I just listened to you, you responded as if, it was understood, that the athletes understood that they would have to pay their way to Paris and that everything, was made clear to them via proper communication. But then, I remember when she made the first tweet 2 days ago, I was home and of course it came up on my Twitter feed and she said, won't be in Paris, and then a heartbreak sign, right? So initially I thought that something went wrong and, the journalistic side of us will start to wonder, well, what happened and why is she not going to Paris? She went on to say, I hate that I accepted it. Then they added my name. Then now I'm not needed at the moment. Oh, okay. That tweet makes, it paints a different picture, Leighton. It gives off the idea, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that, she was told that she was going and everything was clear, but then at the last minute, she was told that she was no longer needed. And for me, if she knew that she had to pay her way before, then how come at this last minute it becomes an issue?
People don't pay attention to the rules.
Okay.
If she was paying attention to the rules, she would have known that she would have been going to Paris as an alternate participant.
Right.
Because she didn't finish in the top 3 at the national championships. And therefore, according to the rules, if you're not in the top 3, the association has to pick one other athlete as an alternate, right? So the J3As initially told her that she was the long list. She was on the long list of athletes. But if you look at it, this list of 66 athletes that were named for the Olympics, the Olympic team, only 54 were registered. The rest of them are alternate participants. So if she had bothered to learn the rules, or the people surrounding her had apprised her of the rules, then maybe she would not have posted the thing that she would have posted. Because as the alternate participant, you're not going to be allowed into the Olympic Village. And that is just the simple bottom line of it. Now, I don't know what the communications were between herself and the J3As, which again, I think falls back into the J3As, where I don't think they do a very good job of communicating these things very well to the athletes of the general public.
Yeah.
But I think the general idea is that the rules are there and they're clear. I mean, I read through the rules last week and I read through them again this morning. The alternate participants are not allowed inside the Olympic Village, and therefore, if you're not going to be in the village, somebody has to pick up the tab. And for right now, it's not the J3A, because it's an IOC event. And if the JAAA doesn't have the budget, then maybe that doesn't make sense either.
Right, and Lance, I'm so happy that Leighton is clearing this up for us because, one of the things we ensure on the show is that our viewers are very, very clear when it comes to certain things because social media right now can tend to be sometimes so misleading. And one of the key things is understanding the rules, playing by the rules, and ensuring that, you go with what the book says.
Yeah, and I want to find out from Leighton, though, just on a point of clarification. With Kemba Nelson saying, knowing now that she's not needed, at what point will an athlete know, an athlete who is an alternate participant, an AP as they call it, at what point would they be aware that they won't be needed? Because that was those were her words in her Twitter post.
Yeah.
In her Twitter post that she realizes now that she's not needed. And I'm not sure, Leighton, if our viewers understand the correlation between her saying that and the guidelines that you just pointed out. Because to suggest that she was told that she's not needed suggests that she has gotten some communication from the Athletics Association that she won't be needed. Could that be so? At this point, still more than a week before athletics starts.
Yeah, which is why I said that the communication between the athletes and the J3s, that communication did not happen effectively, because if it was explained to her what the rules are governing the competition and the understanding that of the 66 athletes that were named, only 54 were registered with the World Athletics, which means that the additional 12 were going to be alternate participants, then it probably would have made it a bit clearer if the J3s had bothered to explain that more explicitly to her, that given her designation as an alternate participant, that she was not going to be in the Olympic Village, therefore she would have to be virtually on standby. And it was up to her whether or not she was going to be on standby in Paris or be on standby in Jamaica. And it's a simple thing. The reality is that sometimes these things are not communicated clearly to the athletes, so they have the misconception that they're going to be on the team going into Paris, when that was not actually the case.
Yeah, and the understanding we have, based on what you've said too, is that Anthony Cox is in Paris, so he has treated his AP status a little bit differently from Kemba Nelson has.
Absolutely. My understanding is that his expenses are out of pocket in case he's needed. So therefore, if they call upon him when he's in Paris, then he's right there. But otherwise, then he'd pretty much be there watching the games.
Yeah, not only watching the games, but he would, if he does not compete, would bear the expense of being in Paris. Would that mean his travel expense and his accommodation expense as well?
Yes, that's my understanding, that the full bill would be on him if he's not called into service during the course of the Olympics.
Yeah, that sounds a bit...
I'm not... It sounds harsh, but yes. That's the rules that the IOC the IOC has gone on this idea that they have to limit numbers, because if you remember the rules that apply, for example, for the relays, that you can change an entire relay squad from the ones that run in the preliminary rounds. So therefore, that means that if, for example, something happens to 2 or 3 members of the relay squad, they'd have to draw upon athletes who are already in the squad, maybe 200-meter runners or hurdlers, to then fill those gaps. For me, the IOC and World Athletics I'm not quite sure what their thinking is, but limiting the number of athletes that you can take for any particular event, especially like the relays, etc., does not necessarily help countries who may not have the resources to carry athletes and have them stay outside the Olympic Village. Because smaller nations like Jamaica, for example, the US can always afford Great Britain, France, France is at home, so it's not a problem for them. But for countries like Jamaica, it's an expense that perhaps they can't afford.
Yeah, and the other factor that I'm considering is that I understood for Tokyo, because of COVID-19 and so on, the IOC had put in pretty stringent measures about trying to limit the number of athletes that would have been going to Tokyo. And I guess we accepted that then, given what COVID-19 represented. But I take your point that it is a little difficult for us as smaller nations to accept the IOC having these rigid stipulations with numbers in the Olympic Village, because the relays happen toward the back end of the Olympic Games, Leighton, and injuries happen all the time. And it is reasonable to think that you will need some numbers getting into that final weekend to beef up your relay pool. And I certainly think, and I hear you trending in this direction as well, that the IOC should probably rethink this.
Absolutely. I mean, look at the fact that, especially with this ridiculous repage round that they're adding, the risk of an athlete picking up an injury is even more acute, because let's say an athlete has to run an extra round to qualify for a semi-final or a final and then picks up an injury. And that athlete is part of a relay sport, whether it's 4x4 or the mixed relays or whatever it is. The fact is that then you're going to have to fill that gap or that injury with someone who is already within the village, and that might not be available because of the size of the squad that you have. Therefore, you're going to have to call an alternate who is either in the same city or back home, which means that they'd have to fly all the way in to then come to participate. It makes, to me, I don't understand the thinking of it, and I understand the essential element of cutting costs. We see that with the cardboard beds and everything that's been happening for a while now. But the reality is that if you're going to have the games, make sure that all the athletes, all the teams are on equal footing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, Leighton, we're going to wrap up with you now. But, this is a discussion that will, of course, continue. We want to thank you so much, despite your busy schedule, for making time for us. And we'll talk again soon.
All right, take it easy, guys.
All right, Leighton Levy chatting with us about, what's taking place in track and field as we get ready for the big O, the Olympics. Break time, Lance?
Yeah.
Yeah? All right, he says it's time for a break.